So here's what we're going to do today. We've got a packed schedule. I'm going to have Carissa go first because she's on a schedule and she's got to leave Tokyo to go to another city today. So I said, that's okay. I'll put you on first. So Carissa will go first. And after that, I have a taped interview with Naomi Osaka. She wanted to be here with us, but unfortunately her schedule wouldn't permit. So we've got a short interview we did earlier, about a month ago and she's fabulous in this interview. She's honest and truthful and talks about being biracial and the issues of mental health. She's absolutely fabulous in this interview. And then after that, we have a quick documentary on MINK. It's called MINK, M-I-N-K exclamation point. It's about Patsy Takemoto MINK. She was the first woman of color in Congress. Okay, Hawaii people, we are proud because she's from the great state of Hawaii. Proud, yes, proud. But did you know, my fellow Kama'ainas, that Patsy MINK is the author of Title IX? I did not know that. Of course, I went to public school. Farrington High School, by the way, Farrington. Oh, governor, I see a governor right there. Oh, public school. Yeah. So I was just so proud and astonished to know that Patsy MINK, the first woman of color from Hawaii, a congresswoman, is the author of Title IX. And it celebrated its 50th anniversary this past June when it was signed into law 50 years ago. Who knew? And so we're going to welcome Ben Proudfoot, and he is the filmmaker of MINK. And the relationship between Ben and Naomi Osaka, she was the executive producer of this documentary. Basically, she funded it, and we thank her for it. So that's our schedule for today. So with that, I want to show you a quick clip of our Kama'aina. We're so proud of Carissa Moore winning the gold medal in surfing that took place in the 2020 Japan Olympics, which really was last year. It happened in 2021 because it was postponed, as you know, for a year. So I just wanted to show you again her journey. So with that, I'm going to say roll tape, please.
Carissa Kainani Moore was only 5 years old when she started surfing off the beaches of Waikiki in Honolulu, Hawaii. Since then, Carissa is a 5-time women's world surfing champion. And she made history when she became the first woman to win an Olympic gold medal in shortboard surfing at the 2020 Olympics in Japan. Carissa has surfed all over the world, from South Africa to Tahiti, from California to France, from Israel to Portugal. And every time she gets in the water, she says she still wants to get better.
And here she is, everybody. Please welcome Olympic gold medalist Carissa Moore. Well, welcome. Okay, so Carissa, is Colbert here? Colbert, he warned me that Carissa speaks excellent Japanese. And I'm going, yes. So if you want to do a special greeting in Japanese, now's your opportunity. Go for it.
はじめまして。私の名前はムークリスです。どうぞよろしくお願いします。私は日本が大好きです。ここに戻ってこれて嬉しいです。
Okay.
I'm really happy to be here today. Thank you for having me.
She studied at Punahou, which is a private school, by the way, for those of you who don't know. Excellent private school. Yes, yeah. Ernie says yes. So with that, you know, we saw you win that gold and you're so unbelievably happy. Oh, one more quick thing. Is your dad, let's introduce your dad. Where is he?
Yeah, my dad's here.
Dad,
Chris
stand
Moore.
up, Chris Moore. Woohoo! because he is the reason you're here. He taught you to surf. Because as I said, you were 5 years old. He taught you to surf.
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't be here today without him. So yeah, I'm really grateful he's on this trip with me, and we're gonna try to do our best to share the aloha spirit and teach some kids how to surf.
Love that. But first, let's go back to that moment you won. When you realized you had won the gold, what went through your mind?
Wow. Well, actually, I have to thank you for putting together such a beautiful introduction video. It brought back actually a lot of feelings of that day and that moment. I just remember being in the water, and there was these feelings of kind of disbelief and also relief, because I had just surfed 3 30-minute heats in a Japanese typhoon. So I was completely exhausted. I was in disbelief because as a surfer, our canvas is Mother Nature. So she's always changing, and there's so much that's out of our control. So I was very realistic going to the Olympics about the outcome. I knew that a lot had to go my way and a lot had to fall into place. And so when it all did, in that moment, it was an accumulation of 29 years of experiences of blood, sweat, and tears. My dad can attest to that. It was the roller coasters of highs and lows, winning and losing, the contribution of so many people that have loved and supported me. So it was just like complete happiness. And I was really proud. I was filled with pride to represent surfing on that big of a stage, my country, the United States of America, and of course my home in Hawaii. Before we went to the Olympics, there was a lot of talk about Duka Hanamoku and his legacy and his dream of seeing surfing in the Olympics. And it made me feel it meant so much to me to see his dream come to a realization 100 years later, and to win as a Native American, and to also breathe life again into his legacy and what aloha is.
Right.
So.
And if you saw that video, quick video, there's a shot of on the building of Carissa with Duka Hanamoku, and go to Honolulu and look at it. It's huge, and it's fabulous that you're there, but because you made his dream come true. Okay, so really fast forward. Will there be another Olympics for you?
Well, I mean, I have quite a lot of work to do in order to get there. This next season, the 2023 season on the championship tour, will be the qualifying season. And there's half of the tour, half of the 18-woman field is Americans. So I have quite a few ladies to compete with for those 2 spots. Actually, I think we have 3 now, but still, it's gonna be hard. So I hope I'm gonna give it my best shot.
We'll be cheering, right, Kamanas? We'll be cheering. Woohoo! We're gonna go for it. I know a lot of young people are now coming up to you. I mean, what's your message for the young girls who want to be surfers like you, and the young boys who want to be Olympic gold medal? What do you tell them?
There's a lot I would tell them, but in a few words or in a few sentences, I guess the biggest thing that I would share with young boys or girls who want to live their dreams is, I think with the foundation of faith, with gratitude and love, you can achieve anything. So when I speak of faith, I'm maybe not talking about it in a religious sense, but I'm talking about that unwavering faith and optimism in a dream, and just believing that it's possible even when things get tough. And gratitude. I truly believe with a grateful heart, you're always winning at life. And so when you are given obstacles, you can turn those moments into moments of strength and power. And then with love, which is the most important thing, if you do anything with genuine love, you have the universe on your side. And that's truly powerful.
I say yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Obviously, we were so proud to see you win. But when I look back at I've done a lot of Google research on you to come up with that little video. But there was a moment when you talked about having a hard time, when you really had to look at your own mental health. And today we hear so much about the issue of mental health for athletes. Tell us about that moment and what you said to yourself.
Well, I have lots of those moments. I don't think, I guess the little voice inside my head, I don't think that negative voice or those self-doubts or, the negativity or the overthinking, it ever goes away. It's just learning how to manage it and turn those negative, fearful thoughts into those positive, faithful ones that I think are just, that's where the power comes from, So I'm not going to lie and say every day is a great day. There are days that I wake up and I look in the mirror and I don't like the way I look, or I don't feel good, or I'm not motivated. But it's, practicing it every day, taking the time to turn it around and just putting in the work.
Okay, so thank you for doing that. We know that you've got some passions. I've done a lot of research on you, and that you love to eat some really Ono food. And for all of those, we come on as, what are your favorite places? Give us some top 3.
Oh my goodness. Yes, I love food. One of my favorite places, I have to give a shout out to my husband. My husband and his 2 buddies started a place called Banan, and it's a frozen fruit soft serve business in Honolulu. Yes, Governor knows.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, but where is it located? In Honolulu?
Yes, they have 2 locations in Waikiki, and it's all made out of frozen bananas, and it's healthy and it's quite delicious. So you should try it.
Okay. Any other favorite places?
Ooh,
Malasada's at Leonard's, Shea Vice at White.
You should just tell them your list.
I love all these places. What about you? Because I know you had a cooking. I saw one of you cooking with your grandpa, and he was making some good Ono food. Ono, by the way, for those of you who are not from Hawaii, is delicious in Hawaiian. We say, oh, it's so Ono, means so delicious, or oishi. Okay, so go ahead.
Well, speaking to this cooking show you saw me on, it was all a facade. My grandpa just really wanted to be on this show, and so he was like, hey, maybe we can tell Lanai, who was the guy who was hosting the show, he's like, well, tell him that you want to make the salmon, this special salmon my papa makes, and it's delicious, but I had nothing to do with it. I didn't know what I was doing or how to cut anything, and I'm not much of a cook. I'm much more the taste tester. My husband is the master chef in the house, and he's really gotten into fishing lately, so he's been catching and cooking it up for me, so yeah.
Now, can you see what she's wearing? It's called More Aloha, and you started this whole program that you're taking here to Japan, California, and in Hawaii. Can you tell all of us what it's all about?
I would love to. So I started my nonprofit, More Aloha, in 2018 with the help of my dad. And More Aloha to me means more love. And aloha in Hawaii is kind of our code to live by. It is treating others with love and respect and giving without wanting anything in return. And it's that true belief that everyone and everything is one, and we live in unity and harmony. So, when I was growing up in a very male-dominated sport, I definitely was like, hey, there aren't enough opportunities for young women. And so my nonprofit focuses mainly on young girls and giving them an opportunity to come together, to share, encourage, inspire each other. Our goal is to encourage them to live authentically, be fearless, and lead with love. Since 2018, I have successfully run 10 events with my team that each impact 25 to 30 young girls. We focus on activities that promote mindfulness through yoga and lei making, community, self-love, friendship through our group discussions and our tag team events. And we also just want to empower girls to step outside their comfort zones and chase their dreams through surfing. And sometimes that's even like catching their first waves at our events. Last week, I ran my very first women's focused goal-setting workshop, and I got an extreme amount of positive feedback. So I was really excited about that. This week, I'm excited to do our first international events here in Japan, and we will be going to Shimoda and Makinohara. And I want to say a big thank you to John Omori, who is over here, and he took he took care of the USA surfing team last year during the Olympics, and he's worked tirelessly to make this event happen. So thanks, John.
Yeah, thank you, John.
I'm really excited to spend time with the kids and really just share the Aloha Spirit, what the Aloha Spirit is about, knowledge around surfing, the techniques of swimming, nutrition, self-love, friendship, encourage community service to others, and giving back. And of course, I just really want them to have fun. This is an experience that I hope inspires them and enlightens them and just encourages them to chase whatever their passion is, whatever it is, and share love along the way. And I hope this sets the foundation. The goal is this sets the foundation for next year in 2023. The big goal is a More Aloha global exchange with Hawaii students and Hawaii kids. And so for me, it would just, more than any trophy or accolade that I've gotten in my career, what has been the most important and the most satisfying and the most meaningful have been the beautiful connections I've made all over the world. And I know that will go beyond my surfing career. And so that's what I hope for these kids, is to make those connections. That unity and that harmony is what we need more of in this world, for the kids to take the time to share their experiences, to share their cultures. I really believe that a better tomorrow starts with the kids of today.
I'm going to see a lot more surfers from Japan with you with More Aloha. You brought somebody up and coming, number 8 in the world. I mean, you introduce him. Okay,
Yes.
come on up.
I want to introduce Kai. He's from the USA Junior Surfing Team.
Yes, so Kai. And Kai actually works for Carissa, right? So
This week.
this week. So Kai, number 8 in the world, and he's traveling with Carissa, and he can say a few things in Japanese.
Yes.
Okay, go, Kai.
皆さんこんにちは。はじめまして、カイクシナです。サーフィン、ギターとヨコが大好きです。と寿司が大好きです。
So what are you going to tell the young Japanese surfers about surfing, Kai?
Yeah, just share the aloha spirit, and yeah, just have fun. That's it.
And you got into surfing because your dad is here. Okay, we got dads today. Introduce your dad.
Okay. Yeah, this is my dad. He taught me to surf.
He's
yeah,
from...
He's from South Africa.
Yeah.
And yeah.
He's I don't know if you heard this. He's from South Africa, and he's a surfer, so he taught Kai to surf. So you see, we've got all the surfing dads. Chris, of course, taught Carissa in Hawaii, and then we've got all the surfers here. But what's your hope for the young people of Japan? Do you want them to get up and surf? How will you teach them?
Yeah, just keep it fun for sure. And yeah, share the love, my passion for the ocean and surfing. And yeah, keep it fun.
Okay, keep it fun.
Yeah.
Carissa, what is the toughest thing about surfing? And then I'm going to ask Kai too. What's the toughest thing for you in surfing?
I think the toughest thing about surfing, which I kind of touched upon earlier, was just this idea that there is so much out of your control. And as the control freak that I am, I like to have everything a certain way a lot of the times. And I try to check every single box. And sometimes you just have to breathe and let it go and believe that it's all going to work out as it should. And then I think the hardest part sometimes is just letting go.
Okay, letting go. Okay, Kai, what about you? You're 15. What's the toughest part for you about surfing?
Hard question. Yeah, I think it teaches me a lot of valuable lessons. Yeah, just learning how to flow with whatever comes at you in life, and yeah, because it's the way. Yeah, the ocean's always changing, and yeah, staying present and reading the wave. So yeah, just learning how to read the wave is definitely important.
Okay, and when you don't read the wave correctly, how do you feel?
Bad, yeah. But it definitely feels good when you get more speed when you read the wave correctly, and yeah, the satisfaction is really nice when you surf your best.
Okay, so you've watched Carissa surf. What have you learned from her surfing?
Yeah, she has a lot of power and speed and really good flow and inspires me. Yeah.
Okay. So, Carissa, you're mentoring Kai. What can he improve on? Whoa.
Honestly, Kai and I haven't spent a lot of time in the water together quite yet, but I'm really excited to watch him surf. And just from his stats, he's incredible. And just getting to hang out around him the last couple days, and when I met him back in September in Oceanside, I think what really stands out to me is his character. It was really sweet. We went to the department store before coming to this conference, and we were just shopping around, and he came up and he bought me matcha cookies because he knows I love matcha. And I don't know, just for a 16-year-old boy to go and think of me and buy me matcha cookies because he knows I like matcha cookies, like that was really thoughtful. And so I think you're gonna go very far with that kind of approach and perspective. And it's all about taking the time for others and being kind, because you never know how much that will mean to someone else. So thanks, Kai.
Thank you.
So we have a few minutes left, but I'm going to open it up for Q&A. So come on us. This is your time. Okay.
Hi, I'm Rob. I'm a golfer. Oh, I'm from Florida.
Okay. No.
And golf is a lot, it's mental and physical, and sometimes even more mental than physical. Is surfing a blend of both, or is it more of one or the other?
Good question. Okay, Carissa, take that first, and then we can ask Kai.
I have never really played golf. I don't know if I have the patience for it, but I did hit a couple balls at the driving range, and it felt really good. But yes, I think surfing is a lot of both, but like anything, I think your brain and your mental space is the motherboard for everything else. So if you're in a good headspace and you've trained your mind, your body follows. Obviously, surfing takes a lot of training and a lot of time in the ocean to understand, how the ocean flows and the currents and the winds and the weather and everything like that. But I think, if you have a good headspace and you've trained your mind, I think that matters a lot.
Okay. Kai, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's blends together for sure. Just trusting your ability and reading the waves.
Okay. Got another question here. Your name?
Hi, Amy Young from DC. Though I feel like I'm in my ohana because our 1-year-old's named Kai, and actually our 4-year-old is named Naomi after Naomi Osaka before she was famous, for all of those reasons. So anyway, sorry to gush. I'm an attorney, and so we help guide companies in sort of the same way, because a lot of the things that we try to advise on are also out of our control. I would love to hear from both of you in terms of reading the wave. Can you describe the mindset that you have and that you train for when you go to ride the wave? Because you don't know what you're going to get, but you have to be mentally prepared, and I think a lot of us would really appreciate it.
Okay. Carissa, you go first.
That's a great question, and also a hard one to answer. But I think for myself, and I'll just kind of speak to, when you're dealing with circumstances that you don't know what you're going to get. I think for me, what gives me the most confidence and the most freedom to perform in those moments is the preparation. So checking every single box, making sure I'm waking up early and I'm training and I'm eating well and I'm surfing multiple hours a day and I'm resting. I'm checking all my boxes so that when I get to those moments, I already know what to do. In my heart, my body, my mind, everything can just flow. So I don't know if that's helpful, but yeah.
Okay. Checking those boxes. Kai, what about you?
Yeah, definitely the preparation is a big key. Like surfing the wave a lot, finding where you want to sit in the lineup. Some of my best results is where I've been checking all the boxes, so definitely agree.
Okay, check those boxes.
Hi, so I'm Yuriko from Newport Beach, California. And when I was a kid, if you were a girl, the guys were always cutting you off. So I also have to tell you that one of my best friends from high school was in the first class of WISA. Do you know Shannon Aikman? Shannon would be very upset if I didn't introduce myself to you, but I am kind of curious, like, in that era, you know, the women were like, people didn't even believe they were surfing. And so, you know, what's it like now today? Good, and I have to say one more thing, which is, do you know that Kai can mean ocean?
Yes, he knows. His father named him specifically for that reason. Yeah, so what about the idea, you know, back in my day, I mean, women didn't surf, the boys did. And then in her day, you know, the guys cut the women off. So how is it now, Carissa?
Oh, well, I'm very sorry to hear that the men cut you off on your waves. But no, I mean, I feel like I can relate on some level because when I first started surfing, it was very rare to maybe even see one other girl in the lineup. My dad can, you know, relate to this story, but when I finally graduated from the rolling waves of Waikiki to the punchy waves of Kaiser Bowl. The very first time we paddled out there, one of the uncles was like, this is no place for a little girl, you know? And so it's taken a lot of time, but over, you know, the 25 years I've been surfing and the 12 years I've been competing on the World Championship Tour, so much has changed for the better. My rookie year, we had half the amount of events as the men. We had a fraction of the prize money, and we were most often thrown out in the worst conditions to perform. Today, last year was the first year that we had the same amount of events as the men. We earned the same amount of money, and we were given the same opportunity to perform in the best conditions. So it's come a long way.
Woo-hoo! And luckily for you, Kai, it's all equal now. Yeah. No cutting those young teenage girls off in the waves, right? Okay. Final question from the audience. I'm going to go to my friend, fellow broadcaster, David Ono from LA.
Hi. So this is a little out there, but I know surfing is kind of steeped in the real indigenous population of Hawaii and Hawaiians. And there was a time when it almost disappeared, but thanks to Duke, it rose up again. Does that ever come up on your tour around the world on how this is not just a sport, but it's a cultural expression of an incredible population from centuries ago that found a way to be melded with the earth? And it's like a lot deeper than just a sport.
Carissa.
Okay. No, thank you for that. It's truly beautiful. And I don't think enough people know that the origins of the sport of surfing and Hawaii being the birthplace and it being a cultural practice and it really just being enjoyment. It's something that has been around for a really, really long time. It is crazy that over time it's become this competitive sport that I'm a part of now. But I think for every surfer, I'd like to speak for most surfers, I think we can all say that we do it because we genuinely love it. And even after the season is over, even after I lost the world title on the final day and it was very traumatic, a week later I was back in the water because it makes me happy and I feel connected to the ocean and it's a spiritual practice and I feel connected to, more grounded to myself and pride and of my ancestors and where I come from. So I know that was kind of long-winded, but I appreciate and I hope that everything that happened last year can shed more light on Duke and Hawaii and surfing. So yeah, thank you. Oh, before I go, I just want to say hi to the Yonamines. I see Brian. He was my classmate. And then his dad, Paul, is CEO at CPB, who's also my sponsor.
Central Pacific Bank. And Linda Yonamini is here. I saw it. So Linda is here. There you go. We got the Yonamini families here. So final question. Tell us the one thing we don't know about Carissa, and then Carissa, you tell us the one thing we don't know about Kai. She's laughing already, Kai. Okay, go.
Wow. I don't know.
I think we're gonna get to know each other a lot better this week.
But you got it already. She loves matcha cookies.
Yes.
Matcha cookies. Yeah.
And I also learned that he's just turned 16, so his birthday was a week ago.
Yeah.
He's in August.
Happy
October.
birthday. Happy birthday. So we are going to have to say aloha to Carissa and Kai because they've got to catch a train. And you know those trains, those Shinkansens, leave on time. If you're not there, they leave without you. And I said, we're going to get them to that track on time. So please give a warm mahalo to Carissa Moore and Kai Kushner. All right, now as they leave, I'm going to ask you to turn your attention to this video. We did a very quick interview with the great Naomi Osaka, and the person who did her interview is right here, a good friend of mine, Curtis Rooks. He's here. But take a look at this quick video that she gives of herself and her soul and talks about being biracial and about mental health too. So please, roll tape.
Naomi Osaka is a 4-time Grand Slam tennis champ. She is the first Asian player to hold the #1 ranking. Woohoo! She is known for her fearless determination and her massive serve that can reach up to 125 miles per hour. Time magazine has named her among the 100 most influential people in the world for the last 3 years. She's also been named Sportsperson of the Year by Sports Illustrated. People have tried to define Naomi Osaka. Perhaps this comes close. She is a multicultural, multiracial, Japanese, Haitian, American woman. Tennis champ, businesswoman, fashionista, and definitely a role model. And she is unafraid to speak up for social justice and mental health. Recently, Curtis Takada Rooks, a visiting professor of Asian American Studies at Sophia University in Tokyo, got a chance to talk with Naomi about one of her latest projects. As executive producer of MINK, it's the story of Congresswoman Patsy Takemoto Mink's push for Title IX, a landmark gender equity law that was passed 50 years ago.
What was it about this project that made you decide to jump on it?
Being an athlete and learning a lot about Title IX and seeing how much Patsy fought for all of our rights and how, she was striving. She was the first Asian American woman of color in the Congress. So it's really amazing to hear her story.
And you too have been a first, right? The first Asian tennis player ranked #1 in the world. What's it been like for you to be one of the first?
I think for me, it is really cool to be considered the first at something. But at the same time, it's, it's really interesting because you don't feel like you're chasing something. It's more like you're the placeholder in that moment of time. So it is cool to hear you say it like that, but I'm kind of more interested in seeing what people do after that.
So you were born in Osaka, and your family moved to the United States when you were 3. How do you think your career would have been different had you stayed here in Japan?
For me, I've actually never thought about it. I think my career, I'm not even sure if I would be a tennis player if I stayed in Japan. I'm not sure what the circumstances would have been. I know my dad specifically wanted us to move to America to train as tennis players, so that's a really interesting question.
When you were chosen to light the cauldron for the 2020 Olympics here in Japan, many folks in the United States of Japanese ancestry, mixed Japanese ancestry, and especially folks like me who are also of Black and Japanese descent, were really immensely proud. What was that moment like for you?
It was something that I never thought would happen. Personally, I don't know, for some reason I just thought like the highest point I would ever get is maybe holding the flag or something. So just being told that I was chosen to light the cauldron, I was very, very proud, and I hope that, since the ceremony was being held in Tokyo and the games were in Japan, I just hope that people that looked like me, I don't know, we were given more visibility.
You've been really honest and brave about sort of mental health, your mental health. Yet in, our Japanese culture and even in our Black culture, right, there's a stigma that comes with it. Sort of a shame of saying, I need a break, I need help. What are some of your thoughts about this?
I understand both sides of the equation. When I was younger, I did also feel like it was something to be ashamed of. And just, I don't know if it's an athletic thing, but also it feels like you're showing a weakness by saying that, you have to take a break sometimes or step away. And after a while, I just realized that there's no weakness in saying that you do need to take a break. I think it's more of an acknowledgement, and you kind of know yourself more in that moment. So I think it's more like a growing pain, but I'm very glad that there's a lot of people that are speaking up about it.
What are other documentaries or projects you think you'll be involved with in the future?
I learned a lot actually throughout this whole process, and just like being able to, I guess, immerse myself in Patsy's story and hearing everything from Wendy, her daughter's point of view as well. And I think that as a kid, that's something that I've always strived for, to learn things in a very entertaining manner, whether it's the goal was for it to be entertaining or not. So I would say projects that I would love to work on is definitely educating people on Haiti, and not in like a dark and gloomy way, but more of a bright and airy type of energy.
So here's my final question. So what message do you have for young girls, especially BIPOC young women, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, like my daughter?
The message I would have for young girls and girls that look like me or are like me, I would say that you can do anything, and don't let your uniqueness make you feel devalued. I think people's uniqueness is what makes them powerful, and for me, I've always felt a little bit ashamed to be different than everyone, but when I started growing up, I realized that that's my power, and I think that that's something that you should, be grateful for.
Well, Naomi, thank you again for spending this time with us. Arigatou gozaimasu.
Arigatou gozaimasu. Thank you.
In Tokyo on September 26th. Of course, I'm in San Francisco. So I called upon a good friend, USJC member, Curtis. Come on, stand up. Do you remember him in the TV? Didn't he do a great job? This guy is David, fellow broadcaster. He's a professor, like PhD, really smart. And he's spending a year here in Tokyo teaching at Sophia University. Teaching what now?
I'm teaching a course in mixed roots and transnational identity, and along with a series of other Asian American studies classes. So it's a chance for me to actually get back to Sophia, where I went to school when I was in college about 44 years ago. So coming full circle in lots of different ways. I was born here. So this is a real coming home for me, sort of keropi.
So I called upon Curtis, do me a favor, please. Could you do this interview with Naomi Osaka? And he said yes. So we did, oh, poor guy. We did 2 3-hour prep sessions on Zoom. He didn't know what he was in for. I mean, I had to say, what are you going to wear?
Let me tell you.
Well, you got to sit this way. Okay, when she answers, you got to, down to, Diane Fukami is laughing, but
I was a Division I football player. It was never as hard as working with her. She wore me out.
But I thank you, Curtis, for doing an outstanding job and asking her some really important questions of our day. So how about a hand for Curtis? Yeah, so he's got to go to his own session, but I told him he had to come for my session for this video and everything else. So thanks, Curtis, for coming over. He's got to go to his own session. All right, so we're at the other end of the program now. So you've been seeing MINK, this documentary. We've got the documentary. It's short. It is astonishing to me for all of us who, and you know, Kato-san, you've got a place in Hawaii. You've been going. Ernie, you were born in Hawaii. I mean, I did, and all the Kamainas here, I did not know that Patsy Takemoto MINK, first woman of color in Congress, was the author of Title IX. And it almost didn't happen, as you'll see in this documentary, that Title IX, which was passed 50 years ago, but it almost didn't happen. So with that tease, I'm going to say roll tape.
Now let's all play What's My Line?
Now to meet our first challenger, will you enter and sign in, please? Patsy T. MINK, right?
That's my mother. First woman of color to be elected to Congress.
Do you have a title other than Mrs.?
Yes.
Do you spend a lot of time in this country, in the United States?
Yes. Her most significant accomplishment is Title IX, which forever transformed athletics in America. And it almost didn't happen because of me. It was sort of a chartreusey mustard color, if I recall correctly. A Ford Pinto. We got in the car to go see Woody Allen's movie, Love and Death. I think it was a Wednesday. The future of equality in some large way was on the table that day when the personal and the political collided. Are you ready to go there? The story has a great ending. In Washington, D.C., on Capitol Hill, but begins in the Hawaiian Islands at the turn of the 20th century. By the time my great-grandparents arrived, Hawaii was a territory, so it was part of the United States. His name was Gojiro, born in Japan. Recruited to work for a sugarcane company on the island of Oahu, essentially indentured. Couldn't stand the working conditions, so he jumped his contract. He was the first of a long family tradition of taking a stand against injustice the only way he knew how. As my great-grandparents, you don't know what your children might produce in the next generation or the generation after that. December 6th, 1927. They named her Patsy Matsu Takemoto. My mother. School teachers would say, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" She would say, "I want to be a doctor." She was laughed at. That's not something girls aspired to or did. She was thinking, I want to be able to do what the doctor does, and didn't really see any reason why there should be obstacles in her path. My mother was an American citizen by birth, being born into a U.S. territory. By the 1940s, with World War II, the open discrimination of Japanese Americans, second-class citizens who needed to be surveilled and restricted, that was really, really upsetting for her. We ended up at the University of Nebraska. She got there and she wanted to live in a regular dorm. She couldn't She was told she should go to the International House and apply for a room there because she wasn't white. Something needed to be done, so begins to mobilize an anti-racism campaign, make speeches, published letters to the editor in the school newspaper. I found the College of Medicine polluted with germs of a discriminating nature. I found that the dormitories were not open for people like myself. I found that affiliation with sororities and fraternities was impossible for anyone with skin any darker than the superciliously arrogant whites. Patsy Takemoto, age 19. She didn't get into any medical school. Not one. She said in some cases was explicitly told she was denied because she was a woman. She was profoundly disappointed. She wanted to change the whole system. She thought, why don't you try law school? You are an advocate. She was one of 2 women in her law school class. That's my mother. She meets my father a couple years into law school. John Francis MINK. My father was at the University of Chicago as a graduate student in geology and geophysics. Their eyes met. They knew they were made for each other. He would blast opera. They got married in January of 1951. Patsy Takemoto MINK. And in March of 1952, she had 1 kid. Which was me, Wendy. After law school, nobody would hire her.
She might make you a darn good employee. What's wrong with her? She's a woman, isn't she?
She said, I'm going to have to find a different path. If a law firm had been willing to hire her in Chicago, she wouldn't have gone back to Hawaii. If I can't get hired, I'm going to run for office. There was just no stopping her. Now, at this point, Hawaii was a territory. So in 1956, she ran for the Territorial House of Representatives. She won.
Representative Patsy Takemoto MINK.
I think the time has come for the American people and for the Congress of the United States to search its conscience and to recall back to 1898 the promise they gave to the people of Hawaii upon annexation that when we were ready, we would become a state.
I don't think that the people there know enough about the problem to cast an intelligent vote or make intelligent decisions.
It's no longer a question of pleading for statehood, to my mind. It's a question of rising up in indignation. I feel that the people here are ready and want statehood.
Hawaii's voters, faced with the first opportunity to participate in the nation's government, responded with a record ballot cast by 93% of those eligible.
When statehood was declared, this was her chance to go to Washington. She decided to run for Congress. It had been a nasty race, an expected reaction of people who were used to certain social norms. Politically, men had all of the power. It was entrenched. Men made them laws. A whole social system was against her. They would come up to me at rallies and, when was the last time your mother baked cookies for you? If you need to go to a party tomorrow, does your mother have time to take you to go get a dress? She was somehow an inadequate mother.
Election time in the 50th state.
Democrat Daniel Inouye, Japanese-American war hero, will represent the new state in Congress to influence the course of Hawaii's development for years to come. The campaigning is in
She was devastated, sitting at the breakfast table. Where do we go from here? The Democratic National Convention in 1960, my mother was asked to give one of the speeches in defense of civil rights.
And down there on the floor, addressing the convention in support of the Platform Committee recommendation on civil rights, is Mrs. Patsy Takimoto Mink.
When she started speaking, people listened.
I urge you to support the platform and to give this nation one of the greatest weapons of peace, the winning of the respect and admiration of the entire world. Thank you very much.
That was a pretty big deal, and as a woman of color, an even bigger deal. That was certainly a gift that helped her attract electoral attention. And in 1964, she ran for Congress a second time. In every election, the big contest was the primary contest. Two guys of reasonably high stature in the party were running, as was my mother. I didn't want to see my mother devastated. For me, for every election, there was this incredible anxiety, worrywart. Sometimes she also called me Pumpkin. So I was either Pumpkin or worrywart. I was worrywart that night. I was so anxious that they left me at home election night. My father, the numbers guy, kept reading the printouts of various precincts. Every time he read one, he'd call me. My grandmother, her expectations of my mother were to maintain a mighty, clean household. She didn't expect my mother to go on and get a law degree or enter politics or become the first woman of color to be elected to Congress. Yeah. We all moved to Washington.
Whenever anybody as beautiful as Mrs. Mink gets a picture in the paper, I remember.
It's wonderful to have you here. It's wonderful to have such a, as Bennett says, beautiful representative of the state of Hawaii. It's a beautiful state, and it deserves you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for being our guest.
Immediately, she got to work.
We do have a national responsibility to speak for the women in the country. And so I have assumed that role. No matter how excluded they have been in the past, the individual does count, and we can make an impact.
Her most significant accomplishment is Title IX, which prohibits discrimination against students on the basis of sex. It's not actually new language, it's borrowed language from the Civil Rights Act, which didn't cover gender equality in education. It's the Education Act amendments of 1972. I don't think anybody knew the full effect of those 37 words. Richard Nixon signed the bill into law shortly after the burglars broke into the Watergate. But the story wasn't over. Within months of it becoming law, they became fully aware that there were pretty big implications, specifically for athletics, which led to the enraged awakening of the male athletics lobby. Men who didn't want to share money and men who didn't want women in their sport.
Does equal opportunity mean equal funding?
You're concerned about funding women's athletic programs, is that correct?
Do you think women will ever play collegiate football? Not at Oklahoma. We are very concerned to the point we feel that it possibly might threaten the program. The women's sports certainly will be non-revenue producing, and naturally I do not feel like total budget should be split equally.
That didn't age well. John Tower was a senator from Texas, and Robert Casey was a representative from Texas. both of whom took on the defense of male athletics. Representative Robert Casey wanted to exempt physical education from coverage under Title IX. The Casey Amendment. If Casey won, there were enormous consequences. Physical education would become the first domino. She wasn't going to let it happen. It was my mother and her allies in Congress waging the fight with legions of feminists lobbying. Casey Amendment is debated. My mother makes an impassioned speech against the Casey Amendment. It was a battle down to the wire. This was the definitive moment for athletics equity. The future of equality in some large way was on the table that day. The vote gets underway. Meanwhile, I got in the car. An oncoming car crashed into us. Phone call comes to her on the floor. Your daughter's unconscious in intensive care. I got the brunt of impact. The ultimate family versus career moment. That my mother was even in the hospital with me, given the stakes of what was happening in Washington, D.C., seems sort of insane to me. The Casey Amendment wins 212 to 211. It lost by 1 vote. My mom's vote. Yes. The windshield flew at me. All the glass fell. It cut my face. Here. Yeah, it's all along here, the side of my mouth. I'm sure the male athletics lobby were celebrating on the night of the 16th, but things were happening. Her colleagues in Congress, especially Congresswoman Abzug of New York, who was a good friend, fought in her absence. Many expressed concern for what was going to happen to me. Even a substantial number of pro-Casey people. Yeah. It was the Speaker's decision, Speaker Carl Albert of Oklahoma. He always said, Patsy and I see eye to eye, because they were both short. I mean, he was a short man. Given my mother's abrupt departure, thought about it, considered it, and decided, revote. Many on the other side came around. So in the end, 215 to 178 in favor of deleting the Casey Amendment from the Education Appropriations Bill. My mom won, girls and women won, feminists won, yes. No person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance.
Lucy with a rebound.
That is called Title IX.
It was very difficult getting into school and getting into the professions. I couldn't find a job. And when all of my contemporaries at home say, oh my goodness, what you've done to politics at home, and wish we had never heard of Patsy Mink, I'll say, well, it's because of all of your attitudes that drove me into politics. If you'd given me a job when I came home from law school, I would have been very happy.
I am the child of someone who made a huge difference for women and girls in education. She taught me change might be slow, but changes can happen. I did screw it up with the Pinto, right? For 2 days.
I'm going to let the credits roll, and then I'm going to call upon the filmmaker, Academy Award-winning filmmaker, by the way, Ben Proudfoot. Come on up. Thank you for being here. Aloha, have a seat. I say Academy Award winner because he is. His documentary called Queen of Basketball, and we have a shot of her, I can see at the very last, the woman playing basketball. He won with that Queen of Basketball documentary this past Academy Awards.
In March, yeah.
Woohoo! Way to go!
Thank you. Thank you.
So we have to see this submitted to the Academy Awards.
Oh, it's already qualified.
Okay, there you go. Maybe you're up for another one next year. All right, so Ben, obvious question. I mean, especially you heard of all the Kama'ainas in this room, and you know that I've said I'm a Kama'aina. I had no idea that it was Patsy Mink who authored Title IX. But what inspired you, a filmmaker from Canada?
Yeah, from Nova Scotia.
Yeah. To do this documentary, and we want to say mahalo. Thank you for doing it.
Oh, my pleasure.
So what inspired you?
So I made a film called The Queen of Basketball, which is about Lucy Harris, who is the first and only woman officially drafted in the NBA. And as I was doing research on that, I wanted to look into Title IX, which was the reason why Delta State, this small college in Mississippi, had created a women's basketball team. And sort of initial research, it was like Richard Nixon signed it into law. And I just sort of thought, maybe there's more to this story than Richard Nixon signing it into law. I couldn't find anything about Richard Nixon saying anything about Title IX. He didn't make any comments about Title IX. So pretty quickly I found it was this woman named Patsy Mink. And I had never heard the name. I had never read the name Patsy Mink. And it became pretty clear to me that she was the, one of several, but a main responsible party. And when she passed away, Nancy Pelosi made a speech, and it referred to this moment when her daughter was in this car accident and she was pulled from the Capitol during this crucial vote that lost by 1. And it spoke to me just as a really great way to draw audiences into the story of Patsy's life and her accomplishments, and also the story of Title IX. Because I mean, it's so dramatic, so incredibly dramatic. Not only that, it would lose by 1 vote, but that Patsy, who had been, attacked her whole career for trying to be being such a successful politician and being such a successful mother, that it would all come down to a choice for her between staying in the Capitol and going to be with her daughter. So I felt that it was, truth was stranger than fiction, and as a documentary filmmaker, you have to go the distance to find and tell those stories.
So I'm glad you did, by the way. And then, you saw the interview with Naomi Osaka, and you got Naomi to be the executive producer. How did that happen?
Yeah, so we made the film, and as we were approaching releasing it with the New York Times, we got it in front of Naomi and her team, and she was about to launch a production company, Hanakuma. And she loved the film for a number of reasons, obviously. And we were just completely thrilled that she loved it and that she wanted to partner with us to help promote the film and bring this story to the widest possible audience. And it's just been incredible working with her whole team.
And what's been the response to MINK?
Well, I think a lot of people said we didn't know this story.
I said that.
I think, and especially because Patsy is so compelling, and she was there at so many critical moments, and she's such a great speaker, that we're like, why don't we know more about this person? Why isn't this person, on the Mount Rushmore of American politicians of the 20th century? And that's how I felt reading the story. So I said, I make short documentaries, so it's one thing we can do to try to rectify that.
I think we should absolutely make it, a absolute must to all the junior high school students in Hawaii. They have to know this story.
I agree.
So I'm going to look.
Can anyone here help with that?
Yes. Kama Ina's here, Department of Education. So what's been the response?
Oh, it's been remarkable. I think, obviously, I think it strikes a chord with generations of female athletes who can trace their participation back to this decision and back to Title IX. I think there's been a lot of people who knew about Patsy Mink but didn't know about this particular contribution of not only helping to author but defending Title IX, which now is all our jobs. Patsy is gone, but it's all of our jobs to now defend it and make sure that its integrity is in place. And it's been a huge outpouring. The film won the Best Short Documentary Award at Holly Shorts. It has qualified for the Academy Awards this coming year, and it was just announced that it was placed on the shortlist for the International Documentary Association's Best Short Documentaries of the Year, which is very exciting.
We've got a few minutes left, but what is your takeaway message, your personal message after you completed the documentary?
My personal message was that even though it feels, especially today, that like sweeping changes are impossible or that they may get, tracked back, I think what Patsy showed, even when victory seemed very distant or impossible, she still pushed. She still brought the fight no matter what, immediately and forcefully, and that's what actually got it done. And she's gone, and it's now up to us to continue her legacy.
Okay. I'm going to open it up. We've got about 5 minutes, so I want to open up for Q&As here. I'm going to come right here down the row. Okay, hi.
I had to comment that everybody in Maui knows that she's the author of that Title IX, and we also know she's the first president of the student body of Maui High School.
All right. The student body
She was a politician from the very beginning.
Yes, thank you. I didn't know that.
Thank you.
All right. Questions? Yes, I'm going to scoot across here. Okay. Here we go.
Not really a question, but just a comment on sharing it in the schools. This year, the University of Hawaii was able to put on a 50th anniversary celebration, and they invited all the public schools, females, to attend. So just like you, the girls didn't know anything about Title IX or Patsy Mink, but I showed them this video.
Oh,
yeah, right. So it is
Thank you.
being shown.
That's why we made it. So
All
thank you
right.
very much.
Thank you. Are you with the UH? Are you? Okay, that's good. That's good. Oh, principal. Oh, we bow. He's school principal here. Other quick questions. I'm going to go here. And your question?
Thank you. Hi, Ben. My name is Will. Thank you for Queen of Basketball. Thank you for MINK. We can tell from the documentary that Wendy is a superb storyteller. Does that make her job harder to match that energy, or does that make her job easier?
Okay, Ben.
It's always a huge responsibility to make sure you get the story right, because this is a 7-hour interview that has been compressed into 20 minutes. So any filmmakers or journalists know that's a huge struggle, not only to make it a great story, but also to get it right in the spirit of how she told it. So the better a storyteller, the more material you have in that 6 hours, the harder it is to make it a short documentary. And Wendy made it hard. And this is only a very small, tiny part of Patsy's life. I mean, she ran for president. There's a number of things she's responsible for. So it was very hard to boil it down. But I had 2 really great editors to work with me to get it down to the 20 minutes you see here.
So I'm going to come to this very special person, Ken Inoue. He is the son of Daniel K. Inoue, the senator from Hawaii. I'm going to have him stand up and ask the question. And this is Ken's first trip to Japan.
Wow.
But it's cool that he's here.
So cool.
Okay, Ken.
Everyone got to bring up it's the first trip. Sheesh. First of all, I want to associate myself with the comments over here that I knew about Patsy Mink and Title IX. And, you know, to me, the big surprise with this presentation is what you say that people don't know about that, because I'd grown up knowing about it. Having said that, we are living in a time where there are going to be a lot of very substantial legislative fights in the years to come. And in all likelihood, there's going to be some very groundbreaking legislation, hopefully positive groundbreaking legislation in the years to come. Having worked with this story, what do you feel would need to be done so that in the event we have positive groundbreaking legislation in the years to come, that we don't have this kind of situation where people do not necessarily know the story behind it? Because I think it's important that people know these things. I'm stunned that people don't know of this story.
All right. Thank you, Ken. Ben, to you.
Well, I have to say I'm not an expert nor a politician. And it's really awesome to meet you. Thank you for your question. Oh, thank you. You know, as a storyteller, I think it's incumbent upon us, you know, as filmmakers, as journalists, to find and tell those stories. You know, what I'm seeing as a filmmaker is that the world of telling stories is becoming more and more and more commercial. And money is having an increasing impact on which films get made and which stories get told. And I'm very proud to be a short documentary filmmaker, which means that we have no money to make the film. But it also means that money wasn't the reason why we made it. It's because there was a gap in the story that we felt needed to be filled. And so for my part, what I'm working on is trying to create a market for short documentaries enough that when people have an important story they want to tell, they can tell it. But I really think, you know, it's about journalism and documentary storytelling, and how can we empower those things and make sure that the important stories get told and supported, and it's not just the money driving which stories get told, because I think you'll lose out on a lot of stories that way.
Yeah. So 2 quick last questions.
Sure.
What was Wendy's response after she saw the finished product?
Well, Wendy was, you know, she's a very dry personality, and she was very reluctant. You know, oh, a 6-hour interview, I'm not sure. You know, she said she's the worrywart. But she was incredibly moved, I think, when she saw the final film. And we've kind of become friends through this process. And honestly, that's the most important thing for me, was that she liked the film and that she felt like it did her and her mom justice. And so that, to me, was a big sort of circle closing. Yeah.
And Ben, what's next for you? What's your next documentary?
Well, honestly, this is just kind of like starting its journey. So I'm hoping that many more people will watch this film. And Wendy and another writer, Judy, wrote a book about Patsy's life that we're hoping to make into a narrative feature film. So we're just starting work on that.
Okay, we'll see you at the Academy Awards.
Sounds good.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Thank you
please
very
give
much.
a warm mahalo to
Thank you.
Ben Proudfoot. Thank you. Aloha. And then, with that, I want to say aloha and mahalo for all of you for coming and learning, I hope, and being just a bit enlightened. I hope you had a good time. Aloha.